A warm welcome to our viewers here in Nigeria and around the world. Thanks for joining us on the program. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Here's what's coming up within the half hour. The anti-government protests intensify in Iran. The supreme leader now lashing out at people for the demonstrations. 2 people wounded following a shooting that involved U.S. federal agents in Portland, Oregon, in the United States. Plus, severe weather in Europe, the Russian capital taking a hit by a huge dump of snow. Let's get started. It's the 13th day of anti-government protests in Iran, and it shows no signs of stopping. They began on December 28th and were sparked by the collapse of the Iranian currency against the dollar. The internet has been cut off in Iran in a bid to contain the protests, but some people are staying connected through the satellite service Starlink. The protesters have been calling for the return of exiled son of Iran's last Shah, Reza Pahlavi. The 65-year-old is once again seeking a role in shaping the country's future. From his home in Washington, D.C., he has called on the people to take the streets and previously stated that he was prepared to help lead a transitional government if the Islamic Republic collapsed. There are at least 16 towns in Iran participating in the protests. People are calling for an end to the Islamic Republic and for the monarchy to be restored. 22 people have been confirmed killed during the protests. Iran's economy remains troubled with little prospect for growth this year or next. Staying with the protests, the Iranian supreme leader, the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who is ultimate power in Iran, has dismissed the protesters as a bunch of vandals trying to please the U.S. President Donald Trump, who threatened to hit Iran very hard of government forces killing protesters. He said Iran will not back down in the face of the saboteurs. Last Friday, U.S. President Donald Trump had posted on social media, if Iran shoots and violently kills peaceful protesters, which is their custom, the United States of America will come to their rescue. We're locked and loaded and ready to go. Meanwhile, Iran's top security body has warned that the Iranian judiciary and security forces will show no leniency towards saboteurs. They issued a statement a while ago saying security and law enforcement forces have been deployed to neutralize the destabilization plans of the Zionist regime and its godfather, the United States. Let's move to the United States now, where 2 people have been wounded in a shooting involving U.S. federal agents in Portland, Oregon. The city's police department said in a statement a man and a woman had been taken to hospital and their conditions were unknown. The Department of Homeland Security said the incident happened at 2:19 local time with a traffic stop of a Venezuelan gang member who attempted to run over agents with his car. The incident comes today after a federal agent fatally shot a woman in Minneapolis, triggering protests around the U.S. against federal law enforcement operations in U.S. cities. The 2 people who were shot have not been identified, and police say that they were discovered several blocks from the scene of the shooting. Speaking of those protests, they sparked across New York City following the fatal shooting of 37-year-old Renee Nicole by an ICE agent in Minneapolis. Protesters marched downtown with banners and signs chanting slogans such as abolish ICE, among others. They also expressed solidarity with Good's family, denouncing ICE's action. The mother of 3 was shot and killed by an ICE agent on Wednesday night. She was taken to hospital and pronounced dead from gunshot wounds to the head. Federal officials defended the shooting, with Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem calling Good's actions an act of domestic terrorism, claiming she weaponized her vehicle to target federal agents.
I mean, to see a woman get shot in the face like that, and just to see like our officials try to like justify it as far as like she was trying to hit that man, you know what I mean? Everybody's like lost on what's going on. Nobody wants to get like grabbed by these. It's going to get worse, you know what I mean? I think this is like the people out here protesting is the best thing, like to show that we're not going to stand for this. that's going on. Like I said, I just see it getting worse. She's American. It's our right to protest. I don't think she did anything to get shot in the face. I don't even think she did anything to get arrested. These guys are untrained and don't know what they're doing.
Out here today in New York City and across the country in the thousands to fight back against this vicious murder of one of our brothers and sisters in Minneapolis through ICE's terror. And what we're out here for today is a matter of saying this anger against ICE is something that needs to be channeled in fighting.
It's just heartbreaking that, you know, people are being shot by ICE. Like, it's just, I don't know, I don't have the words really for it, but except like heartbreak and anger.
Protests have gotten close enough to the White House in Washington, D.C. Thursday night, this is what happened. People denouncing Renee Good's shooting by the ICE agents. The protesters marched through the streets of the U.S. Capitol, chanting slogans. They reportedly blocked one of the city's main intersections, forcing its temporary closure. U.S. President Donald Trump has commented on Good's shooting, saying in a post on social media she was very disorderly, claiming she was obstructing and resisting and was violently, willfully, and viciously ran over the ICE officer.
When a Palestinian is still alive, ensuring that they will die. Free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
What do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
Then what do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
Out now!
ICE out now! ICE out! Out now! ICE out now! ICE out!
Away from the United States, Russia has reportedly used the Oreshnik ballistic missile as part of a massive overnight strike on Ukraine. 4 people were killed and 25 others injured in Kyiv on Thursday night, where loud booms could be heard for several hours, setting the sky alight with explosions. It's only the second time Moscow has used the Oreshnik, which was first deployed to hit the central city of Dnipro in November of 2024. Russia's defense ministry said the strike was a response to a Ukrainian drone attack targeting Vladimir Putin's residence in late December, which Kyiv denies carrying out. While the ministry did not specify what had been the Oreshnik's target, shortly before midnight, videos began circulating on social media showing numerous explosions on the outskirts of the western city of Lviv. President Volodymyr Zelensky and Ukrainian authorities confirmed that a ballistic missile has struck infrastructure in Lviv, about 60 kilometers from the Polish border. Cyclone Francis has brought a record snowfall and blizzard to Moscow, the Russian capital, leaving the capital under a heavy blanket of winter's snow. The video captures, which we'll be showing in a moment, Moscow's iconic landmarks and near New Year decorations covered in snow, as well as snow plows and local workers battling to clear the roads for pedestrians and transport. Leading specialist at the Phobos Weather Center, Yevgeny Tishkovets, reported that as of the morning of January 9th, snow drifts in Moscow reached heights of 30 to 54 centimeters. On Thursday, the Russian Ministry of Emergency Situations warned Moscow residents about blizzards, about snow drifts and black ice, as well as an increase in northeasterly winds with gusts of up to 18 meters per second. Now, snow and cold weather across Europe have led to at least 6 of the deaths as freezing temperatures continue into the weekend. For more now, we turn to the DW's Cassandra Sant from frigid Berlin. Cassandra, it's great to see you. And like we mentioned, 6 people have died already. How serious are the conditions there?
Thanks for having me. That's right. The vast majority of deaths have so far been in France, where 6 people in a few different incidents have died during road accidents related to the ice and bad driving conditions. Another person in the Bosnian capital was killed when a snow-covered tree branch fell on their head. And another man here in Germany has died after he was injured by a snowplow. There were also at least a dozen injuries related to snowy and icy conditions in Europe so far. We're now seeing some countries put out emergency warnings, like Serbia, for example, which has put out a severe weather warning for drivers to be cautious because it's the Orthodox Christmas season, and lots of residents were expected to travel for the upcoming weekend. And in Germany in particular, officials in the northern area around Hamburg are putting out red snow warnings for deteriorating weather conditions as more bad weather approaches.
Cassandra, air travel has also been affected. What are we seeing?
Right. So there was problems earlier this week from snow and bad conditions, and then we are expecting more problems coming up. But let's tease these two apart. So we heard about some of these terrible conditions in France, and looking ahead, France, Germany, and the UK are expected to get a brunt of this storm today. But earlier this week, French media reported 140 flights canceled out of Paris's 2 main airports. So just as that recovery and cleanup were underway, we're seeing more bad conditions on the way, with flights expected to be canceled as well. But I also want to turn to Schiphol because that's a major hub out of the Netherlands. They're now bracing for their 5th snowstorm in a week, with 3,600 flights having been canceled since last Friday. It's not much better on the rails here in Europe either. Earlier this week, we saw Eurostar travel disrupted. That's the service between Amsterdam and Paris. Now the UK National Rail says it's expecting disruptions. And here in Germany, Deutsche Bahn has said it wants to cancel some services in advance of weather today and over the weekend, and is planning to operate at slower speeds on the lines as a precaution.
Berlin, where you are, Cassandra, has been particularly affected by the cold, but that was because of an attack on energy infrastructure. What happened?
Yeah, like you said, here in Berlin, it's very cold. I can see parts of the canal starting to freeze over outside of our studio here in the city center. But the real drama was earlier this week when, during extremely cold temperatures, a left-wing group called the Volcano Group allegedly staged an infrastructure attack here in Berlin. Now, the alleged attack was on high-voltage cables for a power plant. Up to 45,000 households and 2,200 businesses were without power in the southern part of the city. The blackout started on Saturday morning and actually lasted until Wednesday. Train lines were affected as well, and so were mobile phone services. Now, this so-called Volcano Group claimed responsibility by sending a letter to police for the attack, the alleged attack, and said they were trying to take action against the expansion of fossil fuel power plants in Germany. They added that the outages were not the aim of the attack, but that the fossil fuel industry was. And I should say that left-wing attacks against business or infrastructure do happen from time to time in Germany. We saw a far-left group claim responsibility for an arson attack against the Tesla plant outside of Berlin about 2 years ago, for example. But stepping back, what this attack and the extreme weather across the continent all highlight are the vulnerabilities of many critical infrastructure systems in Germany and beyond.
All right, Cassandra Sant from the DW, thank you again for joining us on the program. We're off on a short break now on The World Today. Still ahead. The tour around Lagos continues for bike rider Chibeda, who rode from Nigeria to Europe and back. Stay with us. Welcome back to The World Today. I want to remind you of our top story today, one of which is the protests been going on in the United States against the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, ICE, which killed 37-year-old Renee Good on Wednesday. 2 people have been wounded in a shooting also involving U.S. federal agents in Portland. The department said that A man and a woman had been taken to hospital. Their conditions are unknown. Protests have erupted in New York City as well. People marching with banners and signs and chanting slogans. They're also expressing solidarity with Good's family and denouncing ISIS actions. And those protests got close enough to the White House in Washington, D.C. People also denounced the Renee Good shooting by an ICE agent. The protesters marching through the streets, chanting slogans. They reportedly blocked one of the intersections, forcing temporary closure. President Trump, commenting on Good's shooting, said in a post on social media she was very disorderly, claiming she was obstructing and resisting and violently, willfully and viciously ran over the ICE officer. Our correspondent in Washington, Maria Bird, joins us now. Maria, this will be the second of such wide protests in the United States under the Trump administration. The first, of course, being when he was first elected president in 2014, and then now. What do these protesters really want?
These protesters are asking for the end of what they're considering federal terror and actually, the killings they're saying are at the hands of the federal government. And so these protesters at this point, even though, yes, we saw protests in 2014, and not saying that they're different in nature, but it's actually due to a different situation. The ICE raids that have obviously been happening since the beginning of the president's administration now have evolved, and at this time, people are seeing individuals dying as a result of what is being considered domestic terror by the Trump administration. It's very clear that there's outrage, as you have noted. There are protests all across the country, and they have actually made it, to your point, to the White House. And so they are asking that federal agents are removed from cities such as Minneapolis, Oregon, and other cities across the country. They are very concerned about the safety of the residents and the human and civil rights of the people in those cities.
And as he said for, President Donald Trump taking the side of the ICE agents and then denouncing Good as disorderly, obstructing, resisting, and being violent and willfully and viciously running over the ICE officer. I think this can be disputed, of course, by looking at the video of the incident as it unfolded, But what sort of precedent does it set for America's judicial system, which we haven't seen play out in any way in this case?
Well, the judicial system will begin its process. And so what you'll likely see is that Good's family or the community will have a case that will begin, and they will basically say that her killing was wrongful death. And so that will begin the cycle of the judicial process as it relates to her case specifically. And so, and obviously for these other two individuals in Portland, you'll probably see something very similar. And then the judicial process will begin. It'll likely begin in each state. And then it potentially, depending on how it evolves, it could reach the Supreme Court. But we know that's how it will likely begin. And obviously legislators are also going to be supporting and working with the individuals for those who are not in accordance with the federal government's position on this.
A long weekend ahead for many in those cities where the protests are holding. Maria, thanks again, and be safe. As we end the program, for over 3 months, Chibeda Judith Amadi has been on her bike traveling across several cities in Africa all the way to Europe to raise awareness about cancer and raising funds for treatment. She's back in Nigeria and has been making the media rounds. Donations, she says, can be made to the non-profit organization that she's associated with, Project Pink Blue. Donations can be made online and by direct contact with the organization. Here's more. And with that, Chibeda Judith Amadi, known better as Chibeda, arrives at the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission office in Ikeja, Lagos. The petite avid driver parks in the compound and then comes into the warm embrace of the NIDCOM chairman, Abike Dabiri Erewa, who engages her in earnest conversation, after which they head inside for more serious talk.
Who saw you on some program on channels, and it was like, oh my God, because I have to get your social media handle and follow you.
Thank you.
We're proud of you.
Since October 2025, Chibeda has been on the road, literally. A Honda Africa twin motorcycle, her faithful companion, on a mission to raise awareness about cancer.
I have lost loved ones to cancer. I have loved ones who have survived cancer, and also a personal experience to someone who is currently fighting cancer, because she's someone I haven't spoken to in a very long time. Then when I reached out to her, she told me she stopped chemo and she was in her 6th month and she can't afford to. So I started helping her for my own personal funds. By the time we finished, and I realized that there were more people like her who can't afford to finish their chemotherapy. And I said to myself, I have some savings left. Why don't I use and embark on this journey so I can help more people like her?
Everything was going well, she said, until she got to Burkina Faso, where an accident forced her to suspend her journey. But thanks to the biking community near Ouagadougou, she got back on track.
When I got to Burkina Faso, my first contact when I had the accident was a biker in Burkina Faso. The incident happened at 3:30. When I reached out to them at 5:30, 6:30, same day, they've already got into my location. And this is 300 kilometers to the capital, and that's where the person was coming from. So they got me, they made sure I had an x-ray that same night. I had the surgery that same night, 12 p.m. was when I had the surgery because of the nature of the injury. Because if I had stayed a day longer, maybe it would, you know, when the skin is here. So they made sure I had the surgery that night. And all the way to most of the African country, which is Senegal, I had supportive biking community. And that was where, from Morocco upwards, I was on my own. But yes, the biking community, they've been very, very supportive.
She made it all the way to France, where she faced the terrible winter weather, aborting her plans to get to the Netherlands and elongating her travel plans.
At the point when I got to France, I cried, and at the same time I felt the plan was to get to Netherlands. Why am I stopping in France? I said, okay, let me push myself a little bit and see if I can get there. And just because I see this as a struggle for cancer warriors, like all my journeys I've been having on this trip, it resonates with what cancer survivors go to because of the struggle, the fight. If they're there, if while they're fighting and someone gives them hope, they keep pushing. But the hallmark of it was when I got to Paris and now started going back.
Her parents eventually gave their blessing when she told them about the trip, her mother going further with consistent prayers.
They had an idea that I ride a motorcycle, but fully I lied to them that no, I don't ride a motorcycle. Because she had an idea. I've been riding for 5 years and they never knew. So the first time she saw a video of me on a motorcycle, I said, no, it's for a video shoot. I just didn't want to put fear in her. And that's my mom's reaction. My dad also followed suit. He wasn't in support. After a while, I told him, I've already planned all this. I'm still going to do it. It's better you hear it from me than you hear it from somebody else on social media.
The NIDCOM chairman, Abike Dabiri Erewa, engrossed by her storytelling, told her how proud she was of her and promised even more support now and on her next trips, admiring her courage and conviction.
We're proud of you, and we will be willing to work with you, partner with you to see how we can support this, what the cause you're doing. So let's know how we can work with you. And it's important that everybody knows that we have a Nigerian woman of courage, of valor, of conviction, you know, who believes, and I like what you said, that your voice. Yes. Sometimes we think women can't do things, but you've used your voice to say we can do it. So we celebrate you, we're proud of you, and we'll work with you all the way through. And welcome back home, and we look forward to also being with you on your next trip, your next destination. So welcome, Chibeda, and honestly speaking, I have to say, I actually have goose pimples, you know, sitting next to you.
Chibeda wishes that more Nigerians will give towards her cause of raising awareness and funds for cancer treatment. For now, normal life takes over, and that includes a study abroad. That is until her next adventure. And safe travels, Chibeda. Thanks for watching The World Today. I'm Amarachi Ubani.